Incremental routines. You will see that today my face is huge. There's a reason for that. I want to make this video about me, about what happened today, not about Super Memo, even though it's related. It happened something huge, a pretty big deal. That was about 20 minutes. I was using my laptop, so I synchronized using Git just for the sake of using this computer so I could record the video. The point is that I started to do incremental reading on my English collection. And today I also changed, yesterday at night. Yeah, that was yesterday before I was going to sleep. As you can see, it's a very long session with English. And here, look at today. What happened? I realized something is, the incremental reading for grammar sucks. Let me tell you that. Because it's not a good way, because it's a well-schooled way to do it. It's, there's a grammar rule, how it applies, examples, and so on. That doesn't work. I realized, let me do the old style, right? For me, I was using Logman in Anki. But my use was very different back then, because I had one huge deal of information and I just had to recall the stress in that case, for instance. So I started importing those and making extracts, and of those extracts of examples, so I end up with examples of how the English collection is doing. And man, this is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I realized, oh man, I like this. I don't want to stop. Oh man, this now makes sense. I make the connections. Or like party. I have real knowledge of that with third-party software and so on. Here I have different expressions with a more concrete meaning. And everything makes sense because it's incremental reading. So now I'm making the semantic learning of the language. And this is a huge difference. You could say, oh man, this is so manual. Everything is done by hand. Yes, it is. Because what I did is creating a script to parse these web pages and generate the cards on Anki. So specifically, I don't remember now if I have wrap to begin with in my Anki collection. But that was not pleasurable at all. What I did is starting free learning with English in 2011. Not pleasurable at all. And I kept going and I kept going because I had a huge motivation, extrinsic motivation to learn, to understand English. But it was not pleasurable at all. It was extremely dull and cumbersome to do. But if I want to understand what's written on the books or online or on the videos on YouTube, I need to understand English, right? But long story short, what happened is that today I realized I finally freed myself. In other words, the free learning has finally overcome the toxic memories in English. I have many thousands, hundreds of thousands of bad memories about English. I was coerced to study English for a very long time. Then until high school, I repeated the last academic year 3 times. So I did that year 4 times. The same shit every time, because you study English at that year as well. And then I did. 3 years later, I started free learning English with a very bad approach, with speed repetition, because even if you have the tool doesn't mean you will succeed or you use it efficiently or in a good way. I was not. And then I move on, years and years. Even this collection, I started using Super Memo, and then Super Memo with English, and this very same collection, the Advanced English. But I just did more or less the same Anki experience, because this was a built-in. It's the only exception to the rule. My only thing that it's not done by myself are those items that you see here inside Prelude. Other than that, it's free learning. So on Supermemopedia, I reported mistakes or inconsistencies about the items, the formulation, the convention that is used. or duplicates, exact duplicates of Q&As, or outdated strings or examples, and so on. So I have been throughout the collection. I would say I'm not a casual user. I have been methodically, systematically using the collection. I have done, I don't know, 30 videos in this channel about this same collection. Yet, I didn't experience what I experienced today. What made the difference? Semantic learning. With incremental reading, incremental learning. It's not this word, this meaning, this word, this meaning, this word, this pronunciation. That robotic sense is okay. I have 12 years of experience of this. It's now, let me use the language for real. So let me create items for usage. It's now I have a word. It's, let me use examples. And I have to recall that. Because yeah, sometimes it's in vain, but without purpose or without positive results. It's not the same as without success, in spite of efforts, in this case doctors' efforts. For this one, it took a great deal of courage to admit that all her efforts had been in vain. Without success in spite of your efforts. Not the same, right? It's a tiny difference, a nuisance, but now here is useful for the last step. Now that you know the meaning, now that you know how it's pronounced, now that you know the grammar rule, now use it in real life, because that's the point of learning a language. Use the language. That was my barrier, my wall here, because I had a huge academic experience, and I did lots of English in my life with speed repetition. But what I never did is this last step. Well, never, until recently. It's let me actually use speed repetition for using English. And speed repetition is just the last step. It starts with incremental learning. The speed repetition with flashcards is just the end. When you finish the initial process. And then once it's learned, it becomes to be memorized. What I'm feeling today, what it's awesome and so pleasurable that I have overcome the bad memories. It's the learning part, not the memorizing part. The memorizing part is not new. A huge deal, bro. And on top of that, let me go back to the main. And on top of that, just yesterday, someone reached to me to give me feedback about the channel, this very same channel. I think it was 2 days ago, but I also replied the next day. That person provided feedback and so on, and I am struggling with Super Memo because I use it, I give up, and I keep going repeating the same process of using it on and off, right? Is can you give me some direction about that? And I told her, well, I did the same with Anki. But the key is that it's pleasurable. And actually, I recall, I have got this on record because instead of using text, I replied on audio. So I have the same audio on my computer. That I said, oh man, I needed 10 months, for me at least, in my experience, 10 months with my incremental reading collection with Super Memo, that now it's pleasurable, now it's not turning back. I cannot conceive learning without incremental reading now. And it's so pleasurable.